Thank you, Katie. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
How you doing?
Good.
It's quite an introduction. I always love when we give the introduction around all of my theater background and everything, because the look on people's faces gets really quite amazing. Why did they invite a playwright to come in and talk to us about addiction and therapeutic alliance? Well, it actually has kind of a direct impact on how I've come to be in front of you today and speak to you today. I always loved theater, studied speech communications and theater in college. Always knew that I wanted to be a playwright, always knew that I wanted to work in theater. Unfortunately, while I was in college, I was also doing some pure research in the area of alcoholism and chemical dependency. I was an excellent scientist. I was so good, in fact, that other scientists at the school got jealous of my work, and they asked me to leave, which I did, where I continued my research at Illinois State University. They had a better theater program there anyway. Soon they got jealous of me there as well, and so I had to leave college. I went back to Chicago, and I had all of these skills and tools that I had developed. And I went downtown, I auditioned, I got into a couple of plays, did some things, and realized very quickly that I was on the superhighway to death. All of the people that I knew in the theater community were people like myself. We were all drunks, we were all addicts. So I had to divorce myself from that whole thing. And now I was really miserable. Now I was insane. I started my own process of recovery from alcoholism at that time. So, that kind of pink clouded me for a couple of years. But then I was really itching to work again. And so I got this idea. Why go that route? Why not start my own theater company and write pieces that would combine comedic and dramatic scenes with informative material that would educate people about the disease model and concept of alcoholism and chemical dependency, show them what it looked like at work, what it looked like at home, what avenues of help were available to them, primarily through the Employee Assistance Program. See, this is 1987, right? A lot of people, this was not accepted in general. This is pre-Oprah Winfrey, folks. There was a time when we had no Oprah. There was a time. And it was cold and dark. And there were, no, I won't go there. But, folks like Oprah, they really kind of brought this issue to the forefront, right? They were a very large platform to sort of move our society away from the stigma associated with chemical dependency and substance use disorders. I realize we still have a long way to go. But at that point in time, people did not understand or even really know about the disease modeling concept. So we did a couple of shows, and some folks from UAW Electromotive Division saw it and said, hey, this is great. We'd like for you to come in and do 25 presentations for our 5,000 employees, and we saw their EAP utilization rate go up 120%. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. I've been asked to write pieces dealing with a lot of different issues: sexual harassment in the workplace, occupational safety, violence prevention in the workplace, hazard analysis of critical control points. Yeah, thank you. Try writing a monologue about botulism. This is not an easy thing to do, but we did it. We did it. And it was really quite amazing to see this format really take shape and begin to work. We go back into plants that we did presentations 10, 15 years before, and people could still quote lines, the scenes. You know what that tells me? It tells me that people remember. If they can remember the lines, then they can remember the underlying message of what we're trying to get across, because the human mind is set up for this right here. You're not going to remember my PowerPoints, but you may remember a bit of a story. You may remember that I was a good researcher, right? Because right now we're sitting around the campfire and we're telling each other stories. Because we learn more through our eyes than we do through our ears. If you're driving down the highway and you hear about an accident over the radio, chances are you're going to keep barreling down the road. But when we see an accident, what do we usually do? Stop, slow down. What we see actually has an impact in our behavior. Let me give you another example of that. Everybody do this. Make a big, huge okay sign. Put it up here, and put it right here on your chin. Put it on your chin. I put it on your chin. I put it on your chin. Yeah. I saw that. That was very smooth and sneaky. I don't do that to humiliate you. That's just a fun byproduct. I do it because I know most of you are going to put it here rather than here, because we do. We learn more through our eyes than we do through our ears. And what better way to illustrate, demonstrate, and show each other than the way that we've done it since the ancient Greeks, and that's put it up on stage and allow people to judge for themselves where they are in this whole mix. So that's been a wonderful, wonderful, it's been a wonderful outlet for me for many, many years. And we still, the company's still there. In fact, we just did the closing keynote for the National EAPA conference for the last 2 years. And it's always amazing. I've written a number of what I call straight plays, which are just regular plays and not these educational plays that I do. And my last one was at Steppenwolf, and it's really an amazing opportunity. Then in 2008, October of 2000, does anybody remember what happened October of 2008? The you-know-what hit the you-know-what. We were doing about 165 shows a year at that point, and in all of 2009, I think we did 10. It just stopped. It hit a brick wall. Now, I'd been doing this for about 25 years, right? And I had seen the economy do this kind of stuff before, and I'm thinking, I'll just wait it out. Still waiting. Still waiting. I figured, you know what? For the first time in 25 years, I'm going to have to get a real job. Gonna have to get a real job. And I actually called an EAP friend of mine and said, you know what? I'm thinking I need a job. She said, you know what? There's somebody interviewing people at Hazel and Betty Ford today. As a matter of fact, I said, well, can you get me an interview? Can you get me a slot? She said, hold on. She called me right back. You're last on the paper. He's going to wait for you. Go. So I went and I interviewed, and son of a gun, I got the job. And so now I was able to bring all of that knowledge, expertise, and heart from my own recovery experience into this realm. And this has been an incredibly wonderful learning experience for me. So I was with Hazel and Betty Ford for almost 9 years. Then I went over to Pasadena Villa, which was a straight mental health facility. They did some co-occurring. And now I'm with Cornerstone. And so it's just been an incredible, long, winding, miraculous, frustrating journey. And now here I stand in front of you, and I'm going to share some things with you that I've brought with me over from the theatrical realm that I want to share with you because I believe that it has a very strong practical application in the things that you do. So, let's start with this guy. When I was working on Wendell Green at Steppenwolf, one of the things that you do when you're developing a play is that you go back and you revisit source material. This, for me, was source material. I went back and I reread this book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, written by Joseph Campbell, published in 1949. I call it source material because it is a book that I vaguely remembered reading in college when I was doing all of that pure research. It's a little fuzzy. I went back, though, and I reread this book. If you get jazzed up about what I'm talking about today, you can go into any big box bookstore, pick it right up off the shelf. I guarantee it'll be there. The Hero with a Thousand Faces. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's published in 1949, still on the shelf. Still on the shelf. I'll guarantee it's going to be on the shelf. And what makes it doubly interesting, it's not a novel or anything, it's a piece of scholarship. And yet this book is going to be there on the shelf. Now I'll get to the reason why here in a few minutes. If you get jazzed up and you want to go pick that book up and read it, I would recommend it. But I will tell you it's a tough read because it is a piece of scholarship. If you want to get just the good stuff, and that's what we're really all about, just the good stuff. In 1987, Bill Moyers conducted an interview with Joseph Campbell called The Power of Myth. It is 6 hours long. 6-part series, 6 hours long. And it is amazing. And it is all the good stuff. Well, what was in this book that makes this such a revelatory? Campbell did in this book what had never been done before. While he was growing up, he was always fascinated with folk tales and mythology, and as he was growing up, he noticed that a lot of these stories had a lot of overlap with other cultures, even if those cultures never met. And he started thinking about, well, what's going on here? So as a Princeton scholar, he literally traveled the world and collected the world's myths, legends, folk tales, and religions. And he did a comparative analysis of them. And what he discovered was pretty amazing. What he discovered proves that, without a doubt, we are much more alike than we are different. What he discovered was that it didn't matter if you came from a culture that had a lot of contact with outside cultures, or if you were isolated, like the Aborigines in the Australian outback, no outside contact, or the Yamumamu in the Brazilian rainforest, no outside contact. And yet, without exception, when we sat down at the end of the day around the campfire and we told our heroic tales, he discovered that without exception, they all followed a very specific 6-step process. If the hero in the story followed that 6-step process, he or she was likely to succeed. If one of the steps were missing, or if 2 of the steps were taken out of order, guess what happened to the hero? Bad stuff. They all died. Pillar of stone, pillar of salt, bones on the floor of some dragon's cave, something nasty happened to the hero. Now, I'm reading this book again, right? Now I've got 17 years of organizational and professional development experience in my head, and I'm reading it from a completely different place. I'm going, oh my God, this is the workplace. This is our everyday lives. I cannot tell you how many people, over the course of working with SST, how many people came to me and said, listen, you're doing all of these other presentations. Can't you put something together on leadership? And I'm a recovering alcoholic, right? Somebody comes up to me and says, can you put something together on leadership? And I'm giggling to myself on the inside. Don't you know who I am? Don't you know what I am? You're not supposed to be asking me to develop this kind of stuff. I am an imposter. I should not be alive today, really. And I said, okay, I'll do it. Why not? Always say yes. Always say yes. Always saying yes is going to get you much further than saying no. Stop doubting yourself. Just say yes and make it up as you go, if you have to. Hey, Ovo's coming to town. Sorry, just thought I'd throw that inside joke right out there to you. Did you see that? Yeah, okay, good. So I started to do a survey of lit around leadership, and what I discovered, number one, everybody has written a book on leadership. Have you noticed that? I found 0 books on followership. That's 50% of the equation, isn't it? Everybody wants to be the leader. Nobody knows what it means to follow. And then I read this book. It's like, oh my gosh, this is leadership. This is, if you'll accept a very simple premise for me today, and that is, on a daily basis, whether we're working with a troubled client, whether we have a consulting or a counseling business, and we have people that report to us directly, or even in our own life, if you are charged with the responsibility of sending people out on a daily basis to achieve a difficult goal or a difficult task, you are sending a hero out on a journey. Doesn't it then make sense to understand this 6-step universal process that Campbell discovered and set these people up for success rather than leaving one of the steps out or twisting 2 of these steps out of order and setting them up for failure? That's my premise. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. That interview, if you get it, what you're going to see is Bill Moyers will ask Joseph Campbell a question, and Joseph Campbell will sit there and it'll just kind of shimmer, because he does that. He shimmers. Not anymore. He passed away in 1987, right after the interview. So I guess this was his last shimmer. His penultimate shimmer. And he would answer the question by citing something from the Bhagavad Gita, something from the Old Testament, something from the Quran, and then wrap it all together with an obscure Inuit Eskimo folktale. And sheer joy. Sheer joy. And he'd sit there. And the reason why it's important to talk about his shimmer is that this interview was conducted at Luke Skywalker Ranch. I'll get to that a little bit later. So, I have an agenda. This drunk is organized. I'm organized. It's okay. I hear some psychopaths can be organized too, I hear. I don't know. I don't know for certain. So, first step on my agenda, I'm going to map the journey for you. I'm going to show you this process. Campbell says that this stuff is so ingrained in us that we can dance the dance even if we can't name the tune. This stuff is all around us. Folks, I recently bought a black minivan. Yeah. Yeah, I get to do this, and I get to drive a black minivan. I am at a point in my life where I wish I could drive anything but a damn black minivan. But I am usually hauling actors with me wherever I go, and getting 4 actors' heads inside of anything is a feat. I need the headroom, if you know what I mean. And so I got to have a minivan. And I figured, well, if I got to drive a damn minivan, I want a cool minivan. I want a unique minivan. I want a nice minivan. And I went online, I looked, and I finally found one. I found one that I thought was very unique and very cool. I went to the dealership, and I bought that black minivan. And I'm driving home on the highway, and guess what I see? Another black minivan? Everywhere I look, black minivans. Same make, same model. I know some of them had the same interior. I was pissed. I got close enough to see. I thought I was unique. And you know, being a drunk, we have issues with that. And now, does that mean that everybody went out and bought a black minivan on the same day that I did? No. They were always there. I never saw them before. But now that I had the black minivan, I saw them everywhere. That's my job today. I'm going to show you the black minivan. I'm going to show you this, and you're going to see it everywhere. And it'll start to drive you crazy. And then we're going to apply the journey. And since I know that this is one of the most intelligent audiences that I've ever spoken in front of. No, don't do that to me. Oh, to you? No. I see you. The crazy in me sees and acknowledges the crazy in you. Namaste. Apply the journey. So I want you to look at it in 3 different ways, through 3 different lenses. The first way I want you to look at it is working with your clients. Whether that's a troubled employee, troubled family member, somebody struggling, right? Or if it is, say that you are an EAP and you're working with someone within your organization that is struggling or needs help. I want you to look at it from that perspective. For those of you that have direct reports, how are you supporting them? I want you to look at this from a manager-supervisor perspective as well. So the first one would be more direct service, right? Second one would be about management, leadership, and how you are supporting the people that report to you directly, the people that you are sending out on journeys. And finally, where the heck are you? Have you gotten all the things that you need? Maybe you need to crawdad back a little bit up the journey and get something that maybe you might have missed. Because remember we said, if one of the steps are missing, or if 2 of them are twisted out of order, you're in danger. And this stuff is real. We're not talking about Bilbo Baggins, right? We're talking about career. We're talking about life. We're talking about how we relate to each other as human beings. So I believe that this is very important stuff. So again, all the stuff that I'm going to share with you this morning, if you can kind of break it down into these 3 different lenses, and I'll keep hearkening back to that as well as we go forward. And then we're going to master this journey. I'm going to give you a couple of experiential learning exercises to see if we can actually, identify it, but also use it. This is a great diagnostic tool. Again, you'll start to see it everywhere, and that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So before I get into that, I am going to demonstrate, because I'm sure that some of you are a little bit skeptical about my premise so far. And I just want to illustrate how well aware of that I am by doing a consensus building activity with you all, which will demonstrate how difficult it is to get a group even this small to agree on anything. Okay, so let's say as a group, we need to get from, let's say Los Angeles, California to Reno, Nevada. So as a group, we all climb onto a plane in LA. And as a group, we are going to build a consensus around which direction we're going to fly. So on the count of 3, I would like for all of you to shout out which direction you would like to fly to get from LA to Reno, Nevada. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was lame. That was lame. Do we need more coffee? Should we bring some more in? Do we need a defibrillator? Let's try it again. Let's put a little stake to the matter then, okay? Let's say that we've all contracted a virus. We're all going to die in an hour. But don't worry, it's only a 40-minute flight from LA to Reno, Nevada, where there is an antidote waiting to save our life. And you better not be on Google Maps right now. Yes, I'm looking at you. Thank you. Don't think I may be a drunk, but I'm not that drunk. Let's say that we've all contracted a virus. We're going to die in an hour, but don't worry, it's only a 40-minute flight from LA to Reno, Nevada, where there is an antidote waiting to save our lives, all right? Let's try it again on the count of 3. Shout out which direction you want to fly, and this time, since we're dying, maybe a little bit more passion. 1, 2, 3. Oh, now we're getting there. Now we're getting somewhere. And apparently where we're getting is north by northeast. Is that what you're hearing? If we split the difference, I'm hearing predominantly north and east or northeast. If we split the difference and said north by northeast, could we build a consensus around that? Yes? Does anyone disagree? Whoa. Well, brother, you're just lost. I'm sorry, I can't help you. Let's say that I'm on that flight with you, and I stand up and I say, hey, everybody, I think it's in the direction of northwest. What happens to me on that flight? Was that you? Did you just... Janet. I know, but I still like you. I still like you, but you're dead. I would expect it anybody else, but it was you. Well, Janet, next time you get a chance to look at a map, you're going to discover to get from LA to Reno, Nevada, you do fly 345 degrees northwest. Oh yeah, let's clap for the dead man. Janet, killer. See, Janet, you threw me out of the plane right about here. But I take a lot of solace in the knowledge that the rest of you died right up here, right outside of Elko, which I hear is a lonely place to die. This illustration says much more about us. It has less to do with our knowledge of geography and more to do with how we arrange information in our minds. It's heuristics, right? We think California, that's west of Nevada, therefore we need to go east. LA, that's south. No, that's north by northeast, right? Isn't that how you got there? Logical, right? Your logic killed you. It killed me first. Are you still trying to figure this out? LA is here. Yeah, well, you wanted to stop in Vegas as you're dying. Might as well. Can't take it with you. Yeah, and it is kind of northwest, isn't it? Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay. I have done this in LA, and I have done this in Reno, and they still get it wrong. I have done this with airline pilots. They get it wrong. Just as our eyes are susceptible to optical illusions, our minds are susceptible to cognitive illusions. And so, we've got to be very wary and constantly testing ourselves. I take away so many nuggets from this one little demonstration. One of the first things that I take away is that, you know what? It's really a good idea every once in a while to listen to the minority opinion. That does not mean that the minority opinion is always going to be right. But I would submit to you that every true advancement, every true progress has begun in exactly that heresy, with somebody willing to stand up and say, hey, I think it's northwest, when everybody else is screaming it's northeast. Do you know how much courage it takes to stand up and say, I think it's northwest, when everybody is screaming northeast? It is tough, and I will tell you that around each and every one of your organizations, there is gold laying around, and everybody is too scared to pick it up. How many times have you heard this?
I spent a few years as a quality consultant before I became a counselor. The first thing they tell you is, like, if you're doing process improvement, what a lot of people think is going on is not what's going on.
It's not.
So the answer to that is get some data. So we pull out the Google map, we look at the facts. I mean, I was listening to a stock market thing the other day and say the market's doing so great because we have such access to information that people's feelings and perceptions are not as critical as having the information reality. So that's a good example.
It is a great example, and I've got like a ton of these that are so descriptive of exactly what you're saying. I mean, we can never leach out our hearts. We can never leach out our minds and just replace it all with raw data. I mean, we're always going to be emotionally engaged in some of this stuff. And I tell you what, the treatment of addiction, that's one of the most emotionally charged industries that you'll ever come across. And so detaching with love and looking at, what is evidence-based treatment? What the hell does that mean? Is that something that we're doing at our facility, or are they doing that at the facility that I'm looking at getting somebody in? All of this stuff is very, very important. It's very important. And Bill, what you brought up about continuous improvement is exactly what I'm getting at here. No matter how improved you are, there's always going to be room for improvement. I liken it, especially around safety issues, right? Well, we're a very safe place. Well, does that mean that we all just sit back and just take a hiatus from safety? No. I liken it to breaking a glass in your kitchen. Everybody, have you ever done that? Broke a glass in your kitchen? And so the glass is laying there on the floor in big shards, right? And you get the broom and you get the dustpan. You get out there and very carefully, you're sweeping up all the big shards and all the little shards, right? And then if you're like me, who's a little paranoid about these things, I take a paper towel, wet it, and I get down on the floor, and then I clean it up, and I get all those tiny little shards. Good to go, right? 3 months later, in the middle of the night, you're walking into the kitchen barefoot, sneak something out of the refrigerator, and ow, the heck was that? Sure enough, a little shard, where the hell was that hiding? Where was it hiding that it sat there for 3 months? In our businesses and organizations, we have swept up all the big stuff. We have wiped up all the little things that we can possibly see. But there are these shards, and they're hiding. and they're waiting for just the right moment. And it is a Northwest thinker that walks by and says, why are we doing that like that? Everybody says, well, that's the way we've always done it. Okay, well, what if we did this? Why don't you shut up and go do your job and leave us alone? How many times have you heard this in your organization? We want to foster an entrepreneurial spirit. We want you to exercise your autonomy. Own it. Own it. That is so much crap. That is the last thing that we want in our organizations. Why? How do I know that? Well, when somebody stands up and says, I think it's Northwest, when everybody is screaming it's Northeast, do we embrace that individual and go, oh my gosh, you are so right? No, hell no. We open the door of the plane and we kick them out because it interrupts the smooth flow of our lives. It's trouble. It's disruptive. Yeah. And that's a big truth. That is a big truth. And here's the really difficult thing, until we learn to reward Northwest thinking even when it's wrong, we're going to step over the same mistake over and over and over again. And it's very difficult to reward Northwest thinking, especially when it's wrong. But think about it. Let's say I'm in the back of the plane now. Now it's like a Lost episode. Now I'm in the back of the plane, and I'm watching me up front, right, saying, hey, everybody, I think it's Northwest. I see Janet stand up and say, you, Sarah. Boom, open the door, it throws me out. And I suddenly get a Northwest idea. How quickly do you think I'm going to stand up on that plane and say, hey, Janet, I have a Northwest idea too? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to swallow it, and I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to walk right past it every day. Every day. I snicker to myself on the inside. They still haven't fixed that. They still haven't seen that. But I cannot step out of cover and become a target. And that's sad. And that's your greatest potential improvement and growth and all of that stuff. Seeing a different way, seeing something new. You know, Eliot said, was it T.S. Eliot said that finding new landscapes isn't about traveling to new places. It's about seeing where you are with fresh eyes. That's a bad paraphrase, but something like that. We got to tear the scales off our eyes and see what it is that we're doing. And I love people that see things from an odd vantage point. You know, I'm blessed that I have some very strange people in my life that are able to help me see things from just a slightly different perspective. And I love it. Yes. 4-year-olds, they really are. They're great Northwest thinkers. And if we climb down off of our judgment horse and listen, we may discover some very important truths in what it is that they have to say and what they're seeing. Children are great reflectors on so many different levels. One other little nugget that I take away from this example is it's a good idea to have a map. And that is what the hero's journey gives to us. It is a map. It is a map that demonstrates what human beings need as they traverse an unknown landscape toward a difficult goal or a difficult task. This is what we need in order to be supported. Campbell tells us that all heroic journeys begin in the same place. There is something rotten in the state of Denmark. There is something wrong. There is a problem. Guess what? Without a problem, heroes are not needed. Some imbalances in your world may include the need to guide, place a complex client, need to increase number of clients, need to attach or detach families, need to improve outcomes, need for self-care. Sit down with each one of you, and I bet you could very easily generate a list of 10, 15, 20, 25 imbalances that you are trying to correct on a daily basis. We call this job security. Folks, if those imbalances ever were to go away, guess what? You can go home. Your services are no longer required. The moment that you become disuseful, you're not leading. I have yet to find an organization that hires people simply because they want a place to send a check on the 1st and 15th of every month. You are there because you're needed. And if you're no longer needed, then quite often we're asked to leave, aren't we? Do not bemoan the problems that come up around what it is that you're doing. Embrace them. They're the sign. They are the call to you that you're in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. You are needed. Just when you put out one fire, another fire erupts. Dance. Dance. My gosh, they still need me. They still need me. I'm still useful here. Boy, that's a little bit of a Northwest bent on some of this stuff, isn't it? Problems are gold for us. They need us. They need us. Without a problem, heroes are not needed. So once we identify that, yes, there is in fact an imbalance, there is a problem that needs to be rectified, that is when the hero comes forward. That's when we begin the hero's journey with the first step, which is the call to adventure. And here is where I'm going to reveal my hidden agenda. Yes, I have two agenda. Or is it agendai? Is it agendai? Jetta? I didn't even look at the Jettas. How many movie fans do I have in here? Raise your hands. Oh, excellent. I am going to do something for the movie fans in here that you will absolutely hate me for the rest of your lives. What am I going to do? I am going to ruin watching movies for the rest of your lives. Why am I going to do that? I just like doing shit like that. I can't help myself. How am I going to do it? Well, remember I told you could pick that book right up off the shelf? Here is why. And the interview was conducted at Luke Skywalker Ranch. Here is why. Lucas, who created the Star Wars, what is it now, like an octatrilogy? Jumped the shark for me with Jojo Binks, but Jar Jar Binks. Jojo Binks. Jar Jar Binks. Sorry, I was getting my Star Wars characters mixed up. He based Star Wars specifically on Campbell's heroic journey. And he used that as a template throughout all of those stories and became a neophyte, a follower of Campbell's work. And so when Moyers expressed an interest to do an interview, Lucas was like, do it at my ranch. You can have as much time, as much, as you would like. That's why the interview was conducted there. And Joseph Campbell winds up being in most of the Star Wars films. He just happens to be about this tall and very green. He's the Yoda character. And he became George Lucas's Yoda. And And so George Lucas kind of poured all of the wisdom that he was gleaning from Joseph Campbell into that, which I think is really kind of amazing. Consequently, I'm not the only writer familiar with Campbell's work. Every writer and every would-be writer eventually has to find their way to Campbell because it is the landmark body of research of storytelling. If you're going to be telling stories professionally, you need to know the rules. You need to know the components. And Joseph Campbell is accepted as the landmark body of research because of all the comparative analysis that he did. Consequently, there are a lot of writers and would-be writers out there. And guess what? They're all walking into Barnes & Noble or whatever big box bookstore or sitting at, ordering through Amazon, ordering The Hero with 1,000 Faces. Hero with 1,000 Faces. And using it. Consequently, these steps in this heroic journey are readily discernible in films, plays, novels, epic poetry. So this is the black minivan that I'm going to show all of you film buffs. Never again, what's that? Or tunes? Cartoons. Tunes. You're never going to be able to walk into a theater, sit down, and just watch a film and let it wash over you like you've done for the past 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50 plus years. I'm going to show you the minivan. This stuff is going to start leaping out at you. You're going to go watch a movie hoping that it'll just wash over you, but you're going to hear my voice. That's the call to adventure. And you're going to curse my name out loud, and I'll know that I've done a great job. That's the bad news. The good news is that if you go and see a really crappy movie and you want to ask for your money back, you can tell them why. Well, the supernatural aid didn't show up until the third act. That needed to happen in the first act. I want my money back. Did you ever go to see a movie that had a great premise, had a great, amazing cast, and you watched it and went, the hell was that about? That's like everything that Bobby De Niro's done in the past 15 years. Sacrilege. Sacrilege. And then you're watching some stupid movie, usually on Lifetime Cable Network, usually starring Valerie Bertinelli. And that thing grabs you by the throat and does not let you go. Go back and watch those two movies. The bad De Niro flick, one of the steps are missing, or two of the steps are twisted out of order. You watch that Valerie Bertinelli movie on Lifetime Cable Network, and it's hitting all of the keynotes, all the milestones at just the right moment. And so this is what I'm trying to do here today, is to take something out of that literary realm, drop it in here, where it is universal and easily at our fingertips, but maybe we've let it sit down here in our intuitive selves, right? Maybe it's we're just really good at developing a good, strong therapeutic alliance with a client, right? But really what we're doing is that we're issuing the call to adventure in a unique way. We're providing them with supernatural aid. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yes, thank you. That is exactly. And once you start looking for the hero's journey and stuff, you'll see it everywhere. Again, there is a great book on fairy tales, and there's also a heroine's journey. There's a great book out on that as well. So, pardon? I'd have to look that up, to be honest with you. My gosh, it's been, I was going to say centuries, but it hasn't been that long since I've read it. But I think sometimes it feels like centuries. So you watch that movie on Lifetime Cable. It's hitting all those cylinders, and it grabs us. This is why Campbell says that we dance the dance even if we can't name the tune. It's ingrained in us. it's almost as if we're compelled to listen to that story, to understand that narrative, to so that we can relate to it. And so it's amazing. So when you leave here today and you go home and you watch a movie, or you go out tonight and watch a movie and you curse my name out loud, thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Glad that I can do it. So I'm going to use a series of clips to demonstrate each of these steps in the hero's journey for you, and then we are going to apply it into what it is that we are doing. The first step is the call to adventure. And this clip that I'm going to use is doubly interesting. When I first started doing this presentation, first 7 or 8 times that I used this clip to talk about the call to adventure, I noticed that somebody got a phone call while I was doing the presentation. And it was really odd, right? I'm talking about the call to adventure, and inevitably somebody would get a phone call. And after the 7th or 8th time, I sat down with a pair of earphones, and sure enough, the director of this movie has laid in this scene underneath the music a telephone ringing. At the beginning of the scene, it's just one telephone ringing. But by the end of the scene, it's a whole cacophony of telephones ringing. Telephones ringing has nothing to do with what's going on in the scene. It's the director's subtle way of reminding us that this is the call to adventure. That feeling that you get when your telephone rings. Oh, I gotta respond. I gotta respond. So watch the scene, but also listen to it as well.
If you build it, he will come.
All right, that's it. Huh? Who are you, huh? What do you want from me?
If you build it, he will come. If you build he will come.
Do you hear it? Bring, bring. It's an old-timey telephone ring. It's an old film, right? I mean, if you did it today, it'd have to be like, pick it, chick it down now, pick it, chick it down, pick it, chick it down now. One of my actors got a phone ring on hers that goes, blah, 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 blah. Please. Be driving down the blah, 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 blah. Shut that off, Tamberla. Banana? I could probably handle that like 3 times. And then, DCFS would have to be brought in, because we're going to have a discussion about that phone ring. Bring, 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 bring. There it is. Call to adventure, call to adventure. This is a great example of the call to adventure. Why? Because heroes don't want to go on the adventure. It interrupts the smooth flow of our lives. Let me ask you, if you opened up your calendar for me right now, would you just have wide open spaces in your calendar that you could say, yes, I can do that journey, and oh, yes, I'll take that on, and oh, yes, I want to do that? No, our lives are full. We don't have room to go on adventures. If you don't believe me, it's the impetus of an entire technology. Why do you have caller ID? That's right. We can gatekeep those calls to adventure. Oh, I'm not going to answer that one. That's my brother-in-law. Never going to answer that one. We do not want to go on the journey. We don't want to go. And this is repeated over and over and over in myth, legend, folktale, religious parable. Moses gets the call to adventure. Hey, bud, I want you to build a boat. Sure, what, like a kayak? No, it's a big boat. But there is no rain, no water, and I have neighbors. I don't care, build the boat. That's Noah. That's right. Wow. Moses, hey Moses, I want you to take some people for a walk. And Moses is like, who am I? I'm not worthy. Burning bush. Okay, I'll do it. Han Solo doesn't want to go on the adventure. Han Solo doesn't want to be a hero. Han Solo wants to be a mercenary and get paid. But then he makes a fatal mistake. And listen, if you take one nugget away from me today, take this one away. Never, ever, ever, never, ever, 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 never, ever, under any circumstances, never fall in love. Don't do it. Falling in love will take you on journeys you do not want to go on. And that's what happened to Han Solo. He fell in love, took him out of his game. Took him out of his game. Don't do it. Heroes do not want to go on the adventure. They make you buy black minivans. We could just go on and on and on, couldn't we? Don't do it. Heroes do not want to go on the adventure. So what the hell do you do? What do you do with a client that doesn't want to go on the adventure? And trust me, for an addict, getting them clean interrupts the smooth flow of their lives. Jim Carroll wrote in the Basketball Diaries that being a heroin addict was the same 9-to-5 gig, except it is inclined toward shadow. It's a job. And now you want to interrupt that? I don't want to go on that adventure. I might feel pain. I don't want to go on that adventure. I'm a big wuss. I don't like pain. I run for cover. So how do you, well, in myth, legend, folktale, and religious parable, there's got to be something. There's got to be a burning bush. There's got to be a call. There's got to be. So when you issue the call to adventure, what should you expect? Reluctance, resistance. I don't want to go. Military, they've got a saying, never volunteer. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. For those of you that have people that report to them and you're wondering how to get a hero to respond to the call to adventure, there's a 4-letter word that you can use that's very effective. What's your name? Connie. Hey, Connie. Listen, Connie, I got a problem, and I need your help, and only your help is going to correct this problem. I need your help. Will you try to help me?
Okay.
Push over. Push over. She resisted for like 2 seconds. Listen, you want a litmus test to identify your heroes versus your mercenaries? Ask them to do something for you that you really need to have done. Mercenaries could give a damn. Mercenary, oh, you need my help? Sure. What's in it for me? Do I get time and a half, maybe bonus time, maybe an extra vacation day? Be happy to help. Your organizations do not thrive on the efforts of your mercenaries. Every organization needs mercenaries. We typically call them temps. Your organizations thrive on the blood, sweat, and tears of your heroes. So just from a recruitment perspective, doesn't it make sense to try to recruit heroes rather than mercenaries into your organization? Doesn't it make sense to try to keep your heroes?
What do you call the person that's trying to clarify the need? Like, what do you need? You need me. Okay, what is it you need me for?
Well, then I have to identify the prize for you.
I'm halfway between mercenary and
No, because I think that if I identify the prize for you, if I show you what it is that I need you to do, you can make a decision based on that. See, remember, this all starts with the imbalance, right? And I'm not there yet, Bill, all right, but I'm getting there, Bill. The prize is the thing that brings our world back into balance. If I can identify the imbalance, then by default, I can identify the prize that's going to correct it. You know, if something is broke, right, I need to understand what is going to fix it. That's the prize. So when I'm issuing this call to adventure, the more clarity that I can give the prize, the more likely the hero is going to go on the journey and achieve it. And I'm going to get to that here in a sec.
Well, that's also not to say that heroes don't go through that mercenary element. There's a brilliant piece toward the end of Field of Dreams when Kevin Costner and Shoeless Joe are having, you know, he's just asked Terrence Mann to go out with them, and Kevin Costner gets into that, okay, yes, I'm asking, what's in this for me? Kind of moment. So heroes have moments like that, and that's okay.
But that's after he has plowed up his cornfield. So he's in the game. Yes. Yeah. Well, but wait a minute. Heroes want to be justly compensated for the work that they do, right? I mean, and you guys are jumping way ahead of me. My arms are tired. I'm only on the first dang step. Now, also in keeping with what you're saying, is that sometimes we don't want to go, and sometimes the adventure doesn't care. Jonah doesn't want to go on the adventure, right? Jonah gets a call to adventure, and what does Jonah do? Jonah hops a boat, right? And they're out in the middle of the ocean now, and there's a big storm, and everybody's looking around going, okay, who messed up with God? And Jonah's in the bottom of the boat sleeping, trying to look invisible. And he finally gets up and he fesses up. He says, okay, it's me, guys. And the only way that is going to, stop the storm, you got to throw me overboard. They did. And then what happens to Jonah? Yes, he goes on. Sometimes the adventure doesn't care. You're going. Sometimes you get a pink slip when you walk into the work. That's a call to adventure. And you're going. They don't want to see you there tomorrow. What's that Office Space where the guy keeps showing up even after he's fired? Oh. Heroes don't want to go on the adventure. And we have to be sold on it. We have to communicate how important it is. There is a need for you to go on this journey. So if you're managing people, that's one way to look at it. For clients, how you issue that call to adventure to build that therapeutic alliance with that patient is your unique creativity. But make no mistake about it, it is a call to adventure. And the more compelling that you can make that call to adventure, the more likely that hero is going to go on that journey. We have professionals that are trained in ARISE models of intervention, and we have, that's all they do, is they're there to issue the call to adventure. It's like, hello? Oh, wait, come on in. I've got a few folks in here already like to talk to you. How we issue that call to adventure can be as limitless as there are situations. And then how are we called on adventure? What resonates with us? Think about all the things you've been suckered into throughout your entire lives because somebody laid it out just like that. I need your help. And only your help is going to correct this problem. Heroes can't do that. Heroes cannot turn their back on real, genuine need. Mercenary, light up the floor on the way out the door. Heroes can't do it. We're suckers. We can't. And the whole time that we're walking away saying that we're not going to do this, we're just dealing with guilt. Oh, I'm leaving somebody in the lurch. I'm leaving somebody in need. Oh, okay, I'll do it. That's very powerful and very compelling. So, once we identify that there is an imbalance and we issue the call to adventure, it's time for the second step in the journey, supernatural aid. And this is where I lose a lot of people. Supernatural aid, what is supernatural aid? Do we have a vendor for supernatural aid? The beautiful thing about supernatural aid is that we've got a ton of it in this room right now. Right now. Supernatural aid is nothing but Campbell's fancy way of saying that before the hero embarks on the journey after they've answered the call to adventure, he or she is visited by some old crone, some fairy godmother. Somebody shows up and gives something to the hero that is going to help them on their journey. And 9 times out of 10, the hero doesn't even know what that little thing does until their back is up against the wall and it's revealed. Are you getting this? Do you understand where I'm headed with this? Do you see that? Isn't that what you do as a therapist? Is that you're giving these little things that is in time going to open up and reveal itself to that person. And 9 times out of 10, they have no idea what that is. And they've got to discover that on their own, right? I mean, that's not something, you can't pull on the corn to make it grow. There you go. Was Dr. O still there? She's left? That was one. Okay, so you're going to have to remember that one and give it to her, okay? Pull on corn to make it grow. Because then you just pull it out by the roots and all that stuff. So, sometimes it's scary to be in here, so I'm I was just having one of those moments, so I'm back with you now. So supernatural aid is nothing but Campbell's version of the fact that a mentor must appear, and the mentor dispenses skills and tools that is going to help that hero on their journey. And oftentimes they have no idea what that thing is. So take a look at this clip.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yes. Let's make sacred pact. I promise teach karate. That's my part. You promise learn. I say you do. No question. That's your part. Deal?
Steel?
Yes. First wash all the car, then wax. Wax.
Wait, why do I have to watch all the car?
Remember, deal. No question.
Yeah, but
Right? Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand. Wax on, wax off. Breathe in through nose, out the mouth. Wax on, wax off. Don't forget to breathe. Very important. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off.
Hey, where'd these cars come from?
Wax on. Detroit. Wax.
And some people say, oh, this stuff. This is kind of cute and it's kind of soft. This isn't about coddling. This is about tempering the hero for the trials that are coming. The trials are, winter is coming. Winter finally came this season, thank goodness. Are there no Game of Thrones folks in here at all?
I want to read it before I watch it.
I'll talk to you after. I'd love to ruin that for you. Winter has been coming for 6 seasons. It finally came. 6 years I've been waiting for winter. The trials are coming. You can, it's when you have somebody in a residential program, right? You've got them there and you're dispensing all these skills and tools, but eventually they have to leave. Trials are coming. When I went to my first AA meeting in 1984, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to this meeting. There's going to be a bunch of old men sitting in the bottom of a church, and they're going to be drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes. And I went to this meeting, and that's exactly what was there, man. There was about 40 of them in there. They're smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. And they were mean to me. They were mean to me. What are you doing in here? I was in college, I was 22, and I'm going to an AA meeting, and they're looking at me, well, we spilled more liquor than you drank. Go away, come back when you got. And you know what started to happen? I was like, I'm not going anywhere. My first sponsor was a bastard. He was. He got up in front of me. He's like, so, you ready to stop? I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about it. Well, if you're not ready to stop, you don't need to be here. Okay, I'm ready to stop. Boom! Here's a big book. Amulet, right? Read a page. Any page. No, start at the preface. He was that kind of guy. Start at the preface. Start at the table of contents. That was my guy. And you know what? I think that is exactly what I needed. I think that is exactly what I needed. We can get it. That therapeutic alliance, and I know it's not therapy, but for me it was contentious. Initially, it was contentious. And what he was doing was that he was calling me on all my crap. He would not allow me to get away with stuff. And so he would keep unveiling me to myself. And it was frustrating, but somewhere along the line, I got sober and I stayed sober. And some of the things that he would mention, that he would tell me, started to make sense. I mean, I was not allowed to utter a word in a meeting for like the first 6 months. He said, shut up. What do you know? What do you know? You know nothing. Shut up. That was my sponsor. No, that's not coddling. It was more Mr. Miyagi than anything. I will teach, you will learn. Shut up. Listen. And how creative you are with that is important as well. But yeah, I think, Mr. Miyagi shows us that that this will work with your most cantankerous management style. You can be contentious and still be rooting for the hero. And when it's in your heart that you have someone's best interest in mind, trust me, they will read it. Likewise, if you have a hidden agenda, 9 times out of 10, that person is going to read it. we have to be clear in our purpose and our goal and our agenda to really make somebody draw near to us. So, it's one of the things I kind of get a metaphor around equine therapy, right? Is that, if the horse is sensing that thing in you and willing to work with you, they will. If they also sense that thing in you that sets their radar off, forget about it. You might as well just go home. People are like that. People can read this stuff, even if it's on an intuitive level. So Mr. Miyagi, so the imbalance in this kid's world is he keeps getting his butt whooped after school. And so that's the imbalance. So he decides that if he can find a teacher to teach him karate, maybe he can at least defend himself. And so he seeks out a mentor, and he finds Mr. Miyagi. And Mr. Miyagi says, okay, I will teach, you will learn. In that scene, he physically gives him 2 things. What does he give him? Headband. Puts it on him too, doesn't he? Does anybody remember what he says specifically as he's putting the headband on him? We will make a sacred pact. How many counselors are there in here? Do you make a sacred pact with your client? Don't you? I will be there with you. I make that pact with you. If you don't believe that that is a sacred pact, break that trust one time and see how long it takes you to get it back, if you ever do. That's the building block of everything, right? That's the first step in this mentor-mentee relationship that we have. You call it whatever you will. Call it whatever you will. But basically, when you boil it all down, it's mentor-mentee. Whether I'm a teacher and you're a student, or I'm a therapist and you're a client, or I'm a supervisor, manager, and you are my direct report, my role is to mentor you ethically, effectively. Gallup did a huge survey, and they're still conducting on employee engagement. I know gaining, what is it, price gaining?
Press game.
Press gaining. There was a price out there at one point in time too, press gaining. And then also Gallup, measuring employee engagement and customer engagement and all that stuff. And one of the things that kind of led to that whole movement was a survey that they conducted where they found out it was very clear that people don't leave organizations. They leave people, supervisors, managers. You are sucking so bad at being a supervisor or a manager that somebody's willing to go someplace else for less money. That turned everybody's head upside down. It's like, what? We thought they were all going away because they had better jobs. No. One of the steps were left out, or 2 of the steps were missing, and you set these folks up for failure. And so that's why it's important that we pay attention to how we support our clients, how we support our direct reports, how we support each other for success. So he gives them a headband. What was the second thing he gave them? Sponge. And oh, by the way, you're going to have to do some work. You're going to have to do some work. We forget sometimes, all of this is about work. It's work, it's work, it's work, it's work, it's work, it's work. I wake up in the morning, I work. I'm thinking about it. I meditate and I do this and I do that. I've been sober quite a long time. Can I take a break? Can I coast? Hey, can you give me just a little wiggle room? The answer is no, because there's no stasis here. I'm either climbing or I'm sliding. There's no plateau. There's no plateau for me. I know I'm either working on my program or my disease is working on me. One way or the other. Sometimes it's simultaneous. To be honest. Yeah. So he says, sure, I will teach, you will learn, but first, I want you to wash and wax all my cars. And the kid goes, you know what, that's a decent trade. I'm going to do that. I'm going to wash and wax all the cars. Okay, I've done it, now teach me karate. Oh no, now I need you to paint my fence. Oh, I get to paint the fence too. Okay, well I'm out there and I'm painting that fence. And he says, okay, I finished painting the fence, now teach me karate. No, you need to paint the house too. Oh, I get to paint the house. Okay, I'm out there, I'm painting the house. I finished painting the house, and I go back, I say, okay, now teach me karate. Oh no, now you're gonna sand my floors. And the kid goes, you know what, wait. I made a mistake. I came to you and asked you to teach me karate. You agreed to do so, and all you have done is indentured me as your personal servant. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Forget about it. I'm out of here. And the mentor says, wait.
On, wax off.
Wax on, wax off. Hey, wax on, hat. Wax off. Hat. Concentrate. Look at my eye. Lock a hand. Thumb inside. Wax on, hat. Wax off, hat. Wax on, hat. Wax off, hat. Wax on. Wax off. Show me paint the fence. Up, down. Up, down. Up, down. Other side. Look eye. Always look eye. Show me paint the house. Side, side. Knock wrist. Side, side. Side, side. Yes. Show me wax on, wax off. That! 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 Show me paint the fence. That! 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 Show me side to side. That! 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 Show me sand or floor. That! 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 Yes. Yes! That! That! Oi. Hey, look, come back tomorrow.
Look at the look on his face! What would you give to have the people that reported you directly to have that kind of look on their face? What just happened? What just happened? What do you see? What is this? What do you see in this expression? Clarity.
Insight.
Wonder. Insight. Faith. Trust. Bewilderment. What was that?
Understanding.
Understanding. Illumination. There was a point in my life where I could not see myself not going out for drinks over the weekend. I could probably make it through the week, but the thought of going a whole weekend without a drink was impossible for me to imagine about myself. And I would stand at the window waiting for my friends to drive up the driveway, hoping that they would come. And when I made it past the first weekend, and then the next weekend, and then the next weekend, I was revealing to myself something I could do that I didn't even know I had in me. It was a reordering of my life. I was like, I made it. 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 And look at this. He's pissed off at his mentor, right? But he's still wearing that damn headband. It means something. If you're not gifting something to your client, and I'm not talking about something big and extravagant, I'm talking something simple. If you're not gifting something to them at your first encounter, you're missing a huge opportunity. For those of you supervisors and managers, as you have new employees come in, if you're not gifting them with something, you're missing a huge opportunity. It means nothing. In the great scheme of things, it means nothing. Listen, I could break into each one of your houses. I don't do that stuff anymore, but I could. Break into each one of your homes, and I could find a ton of crap that has absolutely no value to anybody else on the planet, nay, the universe, and you've hauled this garbage from house to house to house, and your spouse, significant other, has looked at you and said, listen, honey, would you please throw that garbage out? And to make peace, you say, okay, honey, I'll do it.
You know, hide it in the garage.
4 o'clock in the morning, you're out with a new box. Why? It means something to you. They're the milestones of your life. I've got little trinkets and trophies and that mean nothing for anybody else. But I look at them and it solidifies a memory for me. I can actually have a sense memory of what was going on at that moment. Looking at it, holding it in my hand. It's important. It is so important. And that's why if you're not gifting them with something, you're missing an opportunity. And it could be anything. It could be a book. Just like my sponsor gave to me. Of course, he left a welt on the side of my head when he threw it at me, but he gave me a book nonetheless. And the other thing too here is that he didn't realize it. He didn't realize what these things that he was doing, how they were going to help him on his journey. I'm gonna share one quick story. It's 10:38. One quick story, and then we'll take our bio break. I will take our bio break. With my theater company, because we're traveling all the time, the one thing that I absolutely hated about that work was filling out expense reports and getting all that stuff done, right? I don't see anybody in here, none of you have any problem with expense reports. I see that in your faces right now. You live for them, don't you? I see that. So I hired a new accountant to come in and do our, because we were getting big firm bridges and we needed an accountant to come in and start doing the books for us to close out our month and our year. And I hired this guy named Sam Dubin. Sam Dubin was an old school accountant. Sam Dubin brought his own calculator. And Sam Dubin didn't have a modern calculator. Sam Dubin brought in a calculator that was like this wide, that long, and had the tape, right? Because he liked the tape. He liked the... Sam comes in. We go through all the transactions, and he hits the total button right, and it comes up $17.87 off a whole year's of transaction. I'm like, booyah, shot! $17.87, close enough. And Sam looked at me and he said, no, it's supposed to balance. I'm like, it's supposed to do a lot of damn things. But out of literally thousands of transactions, right? $17.87, come on, that's a horseshoe. That's close enough. He said, no, you've got to go back and you've got to look through these transactions and see where you made the mistake. I will be back in 2 weeks, and we will close out the next month, and we can rerun these. I spent hours in QuickBooks looking at this stuff, looking, and I finally found it. It's actually 2 transactions that were split and not assigned to the right accounts. I found 2 weeks later, Sam Dubin comes in, lugging that calculator, right? And puts it up on the table, and he's sitting down, and I'm feeling my oats, right? Because I found them both. And he's like, okay, give me the monthlies. I said, wait, Sam, listen, I found the 1787. Let's get to work. Let's do the other monthly. I'm like, well, no. No, do you know what I went through to find that 1787? He said, Jeff, it really isn't that important. And at that point, I really wanted to kill Sam Dubin. He said, you hate doing this, and you fear QuickBooks because you don't know it. What have you been doing for the past 2 weeks? You've been all up in this QuickBooks, haven't you? He Mr. Miyagi'd me. And I seriously, I wanted to strangle him. But you know what? From that point forward, I was a master of that damn program. And when he came in to balance, it was balanced. And Sam Dubin is dead, and I'm sure that I had a part in that right now. But check this out. Here, it's been 8-9 years since he's passed away, and I still talk about my accountant because he was more than an accountant. He was a mentor who understood that I had to go on a journey that I didn't want to go on, and he tricked me into it. And consequently, I was a much better administrator, steward of our organization because of it. What's that? He did. And, again, I honor him by mentioning his name, Sam Dubin. And I'm sure he's up there somewhere saying, because that's the way he was. He was such a good man. So we've identified an imbalance. We've issued a call to adventure for the hero to come forward. We have provided that hero with mentorship, skills, and tools that they will need for their journey. That's where we left it. And now we have the crossing of the first threshold. This is what Campbell refers to as the point of no return. Let's see if you can spot the crossing of the first threshold in this clip.
This is it.
That's a clue.
This is what? If I take one more step, it'll be the farthest away from home I've ever been. Come on, Sam.
Look at the crows in the background.
Remember what Bilbo used to say? It's a dangerous business,
Frodo, going out your door, you step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to.
It's a dangerous world, Frodo. Just walking out your door, crossing a first threshold. And I had to listen to this clip a few times too because I thought Bilbo was saying, and if you don't eat your feet, there's no telling where you're going to be swept off. Now, why would you eat your feet? No, if you don't keep your feet, there's no telling where you're going to be swept off to. Crossing of the first threshold, the point of no return. You can't go back. You're in the balance now. You're in the balance. Up until that point, there was some wiggle room. But now you will either succeed or you will fail. And you have to take ownership of that. The point of no return. In our culture, let me share this story with you. In our culture, we celebrate a point of no return, a crossing of the first threshold, when we get married. On the night of the wedding, what does the bridegroom do to the bride? Get your heads out of the gutter. Carries her over the threshold, right? That's traditional. In some cultures, they jump a broom. How odd is that if you don't come from that culture? But if you come from that culture, you dare not get married without jumping a broom. For those of you that had your heads in the gutter, that is a bit of a crossing of the first threshold too, because up until that point, you can still crawdad out of it. It's called an annulment. But once you cross that threshold, well, you can still get out of it. Now it's going to be a lot of paperwork, a lot of scratch. And if you'd listened to me earlier and not fallen in love, you wouldn't be having this problem. So one of our actresses is from India, and she was getting married, and she invited all of us to her wedding. I got to tell you, this was one of the most amazing crossing of the first thresholds I've ever seen. It was in Lamont, Illinois, on an estate, and on this estate, there was a pond just about this size. And so the sun is starting to go down. And on the other side of the pond is a raft, a pontoon, and it is festooned with flowers. There's not a square inch on this raft that isn't decorated in some way, shape. And on the raft is the whole wedding party for the bride, the bridesmaids, right? And they are just decorated in these elaborate costumes. And in the middle of all of it is the bride standing there. And she was draped head to toe in gold. And the sun hit her. It just radiated out. And so the groom and all of the groomsmen grab a hold of this rope that is tied to the pontoon on the other side. And with music going and the sun shining and this amazing visual in front of me, and they start pulling her across the pond. And all I'm thinking is, don't do it! Don't do it! Drop the rope and run. I'm kidding. It was one of the most visually beautiful things I think I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not from that culture. I don't know. I don't know if that's like standard. If so, man, I think I understand dowry now. I think I understand what that's all about. I couldn't believe it. And you know, it is a symbol, right? You have stepped into a place you have never been before. And that is the value of reading story, reading myth, reading legend, reading, watching movies, reading novels, is that it's a mental rehearsal for us, knowing that we don't have to be afraid of the unknown landscape because others have traveled there before us. There has been trails blazed for us. And I can take solace in that knowledge. And I can stride forward with a little bit more courage because others have been there before me. Now, put this in the mindset of a client, somebody that you're referring into treatment, who's never been to treatment before. Imagine what that must feel like, the crossing of the first threshold, where they step onto that campus for the very first time. What does that feel like? Do you remember that? Can you remember it? Can you empathize with that? Can you honor that crossing of the threshold. Now, 28, 30 days, or according to insurance companies, 7 days later, when they are asked to step down or step out, now they're going back to work. Imagine what that crossing of the threshold must feel like. Have they been talking about me? Does everybody know? Am I in trouble? Did they find anything while I was in treatment that I shouldn't have been doing? That integration piece is so important. And letting them know that, look, you've been gone for 30 days, and you didn't look so good when you left here. And now you're back, and you're looking good, and you're smelling even better. And your eyes are clear. And you have energy. It's not going to take a rocket scientist to figure out that maybe you were in treatment. Because while you thought it was a well-guarded secret, we all know that you really needed to go. How do you reintegrate that person? How do you break that news to them? How do you lead them through the process of understanding what resources are available to them? Every step of the way. Look, you are the mentor. You are the mentor. You are the supernatural aid. And many of you live with these clients for a long time. For a long time. Some of you probably have sort of cradle to grave kind of relationships with some of the people that you work with. Maybe they come to you as an adolescent. Now they're well into adulthood. You probably know them better than most of their family. And being that mentor, being that guide, that is squarely in your place. And so anticipating what these crossings look like and what they need at those moments is essential, Now, think about your own professional life. Did you cross the first threshold, or were you thrown across the first threshold? Were you given a job, or were you appointed? Were you? We gotta think about these things. Think about your history. Think about the journey that you've been on. Maybe you need to back up a little bit and get a little bit more supernatural aid before you cross into that next place. Also, if you are asked to cross the threshold into another journey, do you have the supernatural aid? Because I tell you what, there's a lot of this going on right now, and that is asking you to do twice as much with half the resources. And it's right, and you better get in there, you better rattle those pots and pans, and you better look pretty good doing it too. Right? What do you say? No? You know what? As long as I've got the supernatural aid that I need, I don't mind saying yes. If I've got the resources, if I've got the support that I need, I don't mind saying yes. I will try some pretty crazy stuff. I have tried some pretty crazy stuff. I better just go ahead and take a sip of this. I've been flirting with that cup for the last, thank you, Katie. Nice. That's nicely nuked. I can't stand lukewarm coffee. Ooh, it's like fingernails dragged across a chalkboard for me. Iced coffee, I'm like, what? But I can do a Frappuccino. I don't understand. I don't get it. What are they doing to me? Starbucks, dealers, crack. Okay. I should just buy damn stock in the company because that's where all my money's going. Not so much anymore. Okay, so crossing of the first threshold. Once the hero crosses the first threshold, well, let me do this. Cheryl Anthony? Cheryl Anthony, since you were so wonderful and talking with me beforehand, I want to borrow this. Can I borrow this just for a second? These are your notes, right? I'm not going to read them. Okay, so check this out. We all work together, and whatever it is that we make, do, or deliver, we rely on a fax machine. Probably in the healthcare industry is the only industry that in some ways actually still relies on a fax machine in some circumstances. Our fax machine is broken, and it has been broken lo these many months. Our kingdom is withering because we have a broken fax machine. Cheryl is brand new, fresh out of new employee orientation. And she comes to work with our group. And I go to Cheryl and I say, Cheryl, we have a problem. We have a fax machine that we all rely on, and it's broken. And Cheryl, this is a manual on fax machines. And this, Cheryl, you know what this is? This is a magic screwdriver. Cheryl, we all need your help. And only your help is going to correct this problem. Will you try to fix the fax machine?
I'll be right back. No, you have no out on that.
Yeah.
You have no
All right. So we've identified the imbalance, broken fax machine. I've issued a call to adventure to a perfectly good, naive hero. Right. And she is accepted. And I have provided her with supernatural aid in the form of a manual on how to fix fax machines and a magic, what else could you want? A magic screwdriver. My question to you is, and she's accepted, my question to you is, has she crossed the first threshold yet? No. No. Isn't that odd? In this little narrative that we're creating right now, we can identify the fact that she has not crossed the threshold. When does she, in fact, cross that threshold? She takes that screwdriver, she slides it into the slot of that first screw, and we all get quiet. And we listen, we hear it. We hear her break that first screw loose. And when she does that, our entire department, we all raise our heads and we all look at Cheryl. Why? Well, because we've all tried to fix that damn fax machine. And here's this Cheryl, this new person, and she says she's going to fix the fax machine. And the truth is, half of us will root for Cheryl to be successful on that journey. The rest of us will pray to God that she fails, crashes, burns, tastes her own blood. And that's the truth. In every organization, there are threshold guardians. If you look at Campbell's work, you'll see in the call to adventure, there's some variation. Supernatural aid, there's variation. Crossing the first threshold, variation. But one thing that he's very clear on is at the moment that the hero crosses that first threshold, we are assailed by threshold guardians. And they, many of them, will want to help us. But most of them want to rip us to shreds.
So
What?
I have a little example. So we're talking about different things that happened earlier, and last week we send out this spreadsheet every week about where the 12 counselors are. And they send out a spreadsheet, and I said to the VP, it got sent out 5 times last week, and it was wrong every time. And we should do it this other way, the new threshold, to go do it. Instead of just give the link, look at the exact file that was updated 2 minutes ago. I was so viciously attacked. By the end of the staff meeting, I was like, I don't want to work here anymore. I'm going to quit. It's baloney. Because I was thinking Northwest, and I was vicious.
And they were all Northeast. They were throwing your ass out of the plane, baby.
I was getting text messages from coworkers of 30 years. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. I was like, what am I doing here?
I was just going to ask you the same damn question, brother.
I picked my date, so I'm done.
Yeah, you picked your date? Might want to move it up. Life is short. Life is short.
It fits everything that you talked about so far.
It, folks, I'm hoping, and we'll summarize this all at the end, but I'm hoping that you're seeing that this is not, the application is not in the realm of fiction. The reason for this is that this is our lives. These are our lives, and this is how it all operates. That's what I found so amazing. That is what, I remember the day when I made all of that connection, and it was like, it was my knees went weak. It was like I was seeing something sacred that I'd never saw before. And it was very private, right? And it took me a long time to try to build this presentation into a cohesive experience. I mean, it's so big, right? And I'm trying to boil it all down. And I love to talk, you see, and that makes it even more problematic for me. But, I just, when I see people, I see their eyes start to light up and seeing that this is life. This is how we relate to each other as human beings. I'm like, they're seeing the ghost. They're seeing the ghost that I've been seeing. And what a wonderful experience that is. What a wonderful experience. You have a question? Yes. Yeah, I mean, you just identified it. I mean, you either help them to see the Northwest, right? Or if you are constantly at a barrier there, then you have to ask yourself, what good is this journey when I'm abbreviated in it, when I'm held back, when I am not allowed to cross that threshold? Then maybe yeah. Well,
that's her journey.
Yeah.
She figured that out.
Yes.
Is her journey.
That is her
That's
journey.
her journey.
So today, right now, I'm in the role of mentor, and I'm dispensing skills and tools to you. Receive them, and now it's it really, this is the beautiful thing. Now it's up to you to take this and use it, or not. It's up to you. But I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to over the years that have lived these dead-end academic or professional careers because they hit that wall. And you have to decide for yourself, am I going to die in this place of broken feet? Was that too pessimistic? I mean, look, I'm an optimist. I believe the glass is half full of cyanide. That is how I operate. But it's your life. You are the protagonist in your story. You are the writer of your story. If you don't write it, somebody else will. It's up to you. It's really up to you. Who's going to write that chapter? You or somebody else? There's a lot of people out there that are so ready to write your book for you. A lot of ghostwriters out there. That's a discovery for me today. Okay. I got to be careful not to get sidetracked. That was exciting. That was a little thing that came out there. Okay, so let's get to the next step. So these threshold guardians, I call them evil magicians, ring wraiths, and dementors. And dementors, in the Harry Potter novels, what do dementors do? It's not the soul, not the life. It's worse. Not the essence. No. Joy. Remember? That's all they suck out. They leave everything else there. They just suck out all the joy out of your life. Oh, Cheryl, you just got out of new employee orientation. They already have you working on the fax machine. Well, let me tell you how things really operate around here. Right? Oh, and you know these people. You know these people. Oh, talk about vigil. Cheryl, let's go out for beers after work because I haven't finished telling you how things really operate around here. Talk about pillars of salt, pillars of sand. They're wedged into your organization. With a crowbar, you can't get them out. Don't change it up, baby. Don't. These are the people that hoard office supplies even when they don't need them. When you're looking for stuff, you know where to go, right? You know whose desk to look under. And then evil magicians. Oh, evil magicians. Cheryl, hey, pleased to meet you, Jeff Mangrum. I hear they got you working on the fax machine. Listen, if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know.
Sure. Really?
And the moment she turns her back on me, these are the people that to your face present an ally. But what they're really wanting to do is to cut you into little bits. You know who these people are. Well, what the hell do you do with these people? Well, let's say, for example, that they're here at Lakeview Health. I'm just saying every organization has them. So what you do, so who is your nearest competitor? If that just happened. You got recruited. Seriously, name a competitor in the area. Somebody that's not represented here. ARI? What? ARS. Okay, so what you do is you go onto ARS's website and you take a look at the job openings and you fill out an application for these people and you write a letter of recommendation, and sometimes you don't even have to lie. You could say, you will not believe this individual. Send it out. Maybe they get an offer. Maybe they get an offer for a job, and look at that. You have lost a ring wraith, and your competition has gained a ring wraith. I rest my case. That's all the math you need to know, right? That's a freebie. That's just from me to you. So that's how you get rid of some of these folks. Get them to see a better offer someplace else, because they're not going to go on their own. But if you can just give them a little nudge, point them in a little bit of direct, hey, you know, I hear they're hiring over at, and you know what? Their benefits, I think, are just a little bit better than ours. Doesn't have to be, but just maybe $1 better. Because they come to work every day with 1 foot out the door. The mercenaries, they come to work every day with just 1 foot out the door, waiting for just a little bit better deal. I'm gone. I'm gone. I'll leave you in the lurch. So you can't get rid of all of them, and you can't kill them. I think that we all agree on that. Exactly. There's not enough holes in the ground. I just took a really dark turn. I'm sorry. I got to come back to the light. Come back to the light. So Point is that think about an addict returning from treatment and going back home. What do their ring wraiths look like? What do their dementors look like? What do their evil magicians look like? What do you mean you're not drinking anymore? You're out now. Come on. You know what? Well, you don't have to drink the hard stuff. Just have a couple of beers with us. Light beers. O'Doul's. Oh boy, O'Doul's. Come and have that. Or you know what? It's been medically proven that you can smoke dope and not be given up on your sobriety, because that's not the same thing. And it's legal. Well, some places, not here. I was just in Denver. And my addict self was all up in my face. You got to go inside. You got to go look. All that stuff that you used to hide and hide behind vents and make take toilet paper rolls and cut a little hole out, put some tin foil in there, and somebody else been there. Take a needle and poke all the little holes in there. I make a pipe just like that, baby. I pop, 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 pop. Yeah, and now they got edibles too. And what's that about? I mean, I had brownies before, but now they've got like gummy bears and all kinds of stuff. I really wanted to go inside and look, but you know what? I dare not. Because I can con myself really fast. And those gummy bears look so damn harmless, I'm sure. It's just a gummy bear. It's a gummy bear. So, yeah. It's tough. It's tough on an addict. They're constantly crossing new thresholds into their sobriety, and they're constantly assailed by threshold guardians. And I cannot stand and shield Cheryl from the influences of the ring wraiths and the dementors and the evil magicians. I can't do it. I cannot protect her. I have to allow her to suffer those assaults on her own. But if I have mentored her well, and I have tempered her well, and I have inoculated her against the influences of those threshold guardians. For those of you that have people that report to you directly, that is the same thing. When you've got a new employee come in, you look at new employee orientation as an opportunity to inoculate them against the influences of your ring wraiths and evil magicians. They're there, right? And so you have that moment to dispense what? HIPAA regs? Yeah, you got to get that done, right? But most importantly, this is our culture. This is who we are. This is what we believe. This is the correct way of doing things. And if you will, if you will share some of your blood with us, we'll share ours with yours. We're in this together. We will make a sacred pact. That's the time. Because once they cross that threshold and get on the floor, there's your threshold guardians waiting for them. And so we need to inoculate them as much as possible. I'm moving along. Oh, hey. Yeah, exactly. Welcome back, killer. Well, we appreciate you coming back, killer. Oh, no. We were actually just waiting for you.
Oh, well, I'll buy you lunch. Secret to life that I missed. How's that?
All right, so we crossed that first threshold, and guess what? What's waiting for us? Boom, the trials. Take a look at this clip.
Never heard of that. Sir, I have an opinion on this matter.
Well, by all means, share it with the squad.
Well, from my way of thinking, sir, this entire mission is a serious misallocation of valuable military resources.
Go on.
Well, it seems to me, sir, that God gave me a special gift, made me a fine instrument of warfare.
Ryven, pay attention now. This is the way to gripe. Continue, Jackson.
Well, what I mean by that, sir, is you used to put me and this here sniper rifle anywhere up to and including 1 mile of Adolf Hitler with a clear line of sight, sir. Pack your bags, fellas. War's over. Amen.
Oh, that's brilliant, Bumpkin. Hey, so, Captain, what about you? I mean, you don't gripe at all?
I don't gripe to you, Ryven. I'm a captain. There's a chain of command. Gripes go up, not down, always up. You gripe to me, I gripe to my superior officer, so on, so on, so on. I don't gripe to you. I don't gripe in front of you. You should know that as a ranger.
I'm sorry, sir, but let's say you weren't a captain, or maybe I was a major. What would you say then?
Well, in that case, I say this is an excellent mission, sir, with an extremely valuable objective, sir. Worthy of my best efforts, sir. Moreover, I feel heartfelt sorrow for the mother of Private James Ryan, and I'm willing to lay down my life and the lives of my men, especially you, Ryven, to ease her suffering.
I want to bring up the next step, which is the prize. That's what this whole damn journey is about. The attainment of the prize. The prize fixes the imbalance. Remember, that's where we started? Whatever is shifted, whatever is broken, the prize fixes it. And the more clarity, and this is what we were talking about earlier, Bill, the more clarity that you can give the prize, the more likely your hero is going to achieve it. And I wanted to bring that up and just mention that because the prize is also the name of that movie. What is the prize in that movie? Saving Private Ryan. That's pretty clear, isn't it? A noun and a verb. Saving Private Ryan. You can't get more basic than that. You cannot sit down and watch this movie without thinking, you know what, I think there's going to be some saving going on. And I think it's going to have something to do with a guy named Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan. The more clarity that you can give to the prize, the more likely your hero is going to achieve it. Well, I try to use older movies, y'all, so that, you know, I'm not trying, I'm going to ruin this movie for you. They saved Private Ryan, okay? It's not like I'm telling you that Bruce Willis is already dead in The Sixth Sense or anything like that. So,
good one.
trying to use old-timey flicks so that, you know, I'm not surprising you. Well, this movie, Saving Private Ryan, is like famous for the first 10 minutes of this movie where they're storming the beach, right? And it's the most harrowing war footage ever photographed, Steven Spielberg is a god and all that stuff, right? And if you watch that first 10 minutes, it's like you're there. And people's arms are getting shot off, and men are drowning under the weight of their own gear, and you see them coming up, and just as they get up, they get shot, you know? Well, that's trials, right? Well, why did I show this clip and not that clip? Well, remember, a trial is anything. Trial is anything that stands between the hero and the attainment of the prize. I'll say that again. A trial is anything that stands between the hero and the attainment of the prize. I think people get physical trials, like storming a beach, or running a race, or paddling a canoe, or swimming a gazillion miles to safety. People get those trials, right? But what I love about this example is in keeping with what Campbell tells us and what Carl Jung tells us, is that more often than not, the dragon that we have to slay doesn't live out here. That dragon lives right in here. It's an inside job. And that's what I found so intriguing about this clip, because sometimes the math doesn't add up, does it? Why are they sending 8 of us behind enemy lines to save one guy? The math doesn't add up. Can I ask you, how often must you perform your work given imperfect information? The math doesn't add up, does it? To your point, the math isn't adding up. Why isn't this working? Why can't they see what needs to happen here? But that's right.
It's bigger than you, Bill. You don't understand. We're not doing it that way.
Do you know who I am? Don't you know who I am? Oh boy, that's a trigger. The imbalance here is that this mother has lost all of her children but one in this war. And so they have been assigned to go and get this guy and bring him home to his mom. And that's what they're debating. Why are they sending us behind enemy lines to save one guy? And the mentor at this point, Captain Miller, comes forward and provides additional supernatural aid. Ours is not to reason why, ours is but to do or die, right? I don't know. I don't know about anybody else. But this mission, this mother deserves to have one child. And I think it's a worthy mission. So much so, I'm willing to lay down my life. Even more importantly, I'm willing to lay down your life to ease her suffering. So at the beginning of this movie, do you remember the beginning of this movie? Is some old man, he's doddering through a cemetery in France, right? And he comes up on a gravestone, says Captain Miller on it. And then we're in flashback, boom, 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 bombs are going off. The whole movie unfolds. They save Private Ryan, right? And as they got Private Ryan, and as they're making it back across enemy lines, they are under attack. And the whole unit, all of these men are shot up, including Captain Miller, and he's mortally wounded. He's laying there on the ground, and Private Ryan is standing over him, and he's trying to help him up, but we all know that it's futile. He's mortally wounded, and in that moment, Captain Miller, played by Tom Hanks, issues a call to adventure of his own. Does anybody remember what that call was? Very close. Be worth it. He says, earn this. Right? Earn this. Sometimes we choose the adventure. Sometimes the adventure chooses us. So now, we're back into the present. The old man standing at the gravestone. And now the camera pans back, and his wife is standing there next to him. And it comes back further, and their children are standing there. And it comes back further, and their grandchildren are standing there. All the people that would not exist had they not saved Private Ryan. And he turns to his wife, and he asks her, tell me, am I a good man? And if she can answer yes, then he has earned it, right? Whew. Just talking about that, I don't know about you, but that resonates with me. Being a good man, to me, means something to me today. Didn't mean something to me a long time ago. You know, but being a good man, being someone that can be counted on, being someone worthy of friendship, being all of those things that I just was not before, means something to me now. And so this movie in particular resonates with me. Earn this. And I see the faces of a lot of people in Captain Miller's face. So, these trials are external and internal. They are physical trials, but they are also mental trials. And fortunately, in the land of myth, legend, folktale, and religious parody, no, I was headed parable. There is true parody. That's where I was headed, right? Physical and mental, baby. It's an equal measure. It's an equal measure, and it is understood that both have the same value. Unfortunately, we're still trying to erase stigma. We're still trying to put the chronic disease of substance use disorders on the same footing as other chronic diseases, which have higher relapse rates. Right? So we're still fighting that damn battle. But we have to. There's no stasis. We're either climbing or we're sliding back. So this is a supernatural aid. You see this? You know what that is? Fitbit. This thing tracks every damn thing that I do not do. It measures every step I take from the recliner to the refrigerator and back. And then it goes through the interwebs and winds up on my phone and shows me in glorious color and 3D graphs what I'm not doing. All right, so the prize and the return, I found a clip that shows both. The prize is the thing that corrects the imbalance. The return is twofold when it comes to a hero. The return is what the hero gets from the journey. Remember, we said at the very beginning, we all want to live indoors and eat. We all want to be justly compensated for the work that we do. Justly compensated. But there's another element. If it's just about the money, then it ceases to be about a hero and becomes something about a mercenary, if it's only the money. So there's got to be another element. And this is what Campbell talks about, is the ultimate boon. It is the return. It is how the community, how our realm is benefited by this extraordinary job that the hero has gone through in order to bring the prize back to the tribe, right? And, so again, we want to be compensated, but it's not about the number. It's not about the number. It's about how it's not about the number. It's about how our work is valued in this firm.
I want you to know something, Ed. It is not about the number. It is about the way my work is valued in this firm. It's about how no matter what I do, you're not...
As I was saying, I decided that the figure you proposed was inappropriate, so I increased it.
There's that look again! There it is again. Granted, it's a lot easier to get that look on somebody's face when you're giving them a check for $2 million, right? But the point is, she knew she was getting a big payday. Everybody know this is Erin Brockovich, right? And if so there's a big case. She's on it. They win. They discuss a figure. And he says, that figure we talked about, I think it's inappropriate. And he increased it. It's not about the number. It's about how my work is valued here. They hated her. She didn't dress the way that they dressed. She didn't speak the way that they spoke. She didn't have the educational pedigree that they did. They fired her at one point. She didn't follow directions. Northwest. And you know what? Part of that Northwest was being able to sit for hours and look through water table records. It was being able to strike up a strong affinity, therapeutic alliance with strangers who would begin to trust her and share the most intimate details of their most intimate problems. These were all things that nobody else in the law firm could do. And they realized that. They needed her, and they asked her to come back. And they were going to share in what it was that they accomplished. And like I said, she's like me, an optimist. Glass is half full of cyanide. She thought he was going to come and give her half of what they taught. Instead, he doubled it. We want to be compensated for the work that we do. But we want to know how the tribe is benefited by this journey. Who wants to take a stab at what the prize was in this film? It's a bit of an onion. What's the prize? The prize brings the I think in her personal world, I think that means a lot. Who said justice? Where are you? You did. I have always said that it was justice. Justice, it was for people who could not, bringing justice to people who could not bring justice to themselves. Yes. And that also came in the form of money to pay for the exorbitant medical bills and treatments and standard of living and all those things that happened, right? So it was justice. That was the prize. That corrected the imbalance. But the return is, number one, she is justly compensated, but it's about how my work is valued in this firm. Cheryl, you have something to tell me. Excellent. Here's $20. Lunch is on me. Right? I could do that, couldn't I? What? And here's $20. Lunch is on me. And why the hell did it take so long? I know who you work for. You got to make a move. Oh, she already made it. She already made the move. Or I could say, hey, everybody, you know that fax machine that has been the bane of our existence and broken for lo these many months, and our kingdom has been withering, and we've all tried to fix? And Cheryl stepped forward and said that she would give it a shot. She would try to fix our fax machine. Well, I am proud to tell you all that Cheryl has, in fact, fixed the fax machine. And I think that we all owe Cheryl a debt of gratitude. Well, I'm asking, what would you prefer, the $20 lunch is on me or the acknowledgement? Why? Why the acknowledgement?
And as you said, it goes back to she gets to see how it benefited the tribe.
Yes. What else? Anything else? Validating. Would it be rewarding? What are we talking about in addiction? Our reward center has been hijacked, right? Chemically hijacked. Now they're on a journey, and it's at this point there needs to be a reward somewhere in there, because if that reward is left out, guess what? I'm going to find it someplace else, and I know where I've gotten it for so many years. So we cannot leave that out. We want to be acknowledged. We want to be acknowledged, and it's just that simple. If we do not get that, now I could say, oh, I heard Cheryl fixed the fax machine. I need to get over here and thank her right away. But you know what? I got this thing going on over here. And as soon as I get done with this, I'm going to get over and I'm going to thank Cheryl for doing all that work. But you know what? It's the end of the day. I got to go home. And I come in first thing in the morning. I'm going to go thank Cheryl. But you know what? There's a fire erupting the moment I walk through the door, crossing that threshold. And now I'm over here. And I got to take that. But that's okay. I'm going to get over to Cheryl in the afternoon. 3 months later, I say, you know what, Cheryl knows I appreciate her. She knows. She knows. If I do that one time, it's probably not a big deal. But if that's my pattern, I take a perfectly good hero and I slowly but surely turn her into a mercenary, because it's all about money now. There's no reward. There's no acknowledgement of the work that she's done. And I turn her into a mercenary. Around the tables, we got a saying, once you turn a cucumber into a pickle, you can never turn it back into a cucumber, right? And so what I've done here is I have effectively taken Cheryl and dipped her in vinegar one time with that action, right? She's not a pickle yet, but if I dip her again, and I dip her again, sooner or later, she's going to turn into a pickle. And she will never work for me as a hero ever again. She will be a mercenary for me. She will need to go someplace else to be a hero. And I believe that all of us have a need, a drive to work in an organization where we feel like a hero and not a mercenary. I love that look. I love that look. Again, that shock and awe. Not too long ago, I was going through the paper, and I read in an obituary, Aaron Brockovich's mentor passes away. Folks, if I got to shuffle off this mortal coil, I can think of worse ways to be remembered than to be somebody's mentor. A teacher, a mentor. I think that that's pretty doggone cool. So, we go through this whole damn thing. And we go through the trial, we collect the prize, we got the return, but we have exactly that much time before a new imbalance occurs. Just when you think you put out one fire, another fire erupts. That's just the way it is. Remember, I told you, if that wheel ever stops turning, you can go home. You're done. So I'm serious when I'm telling you, when the problems crop up at work, really embrace them. Stop torturing yourself. That's great news. That's great news. They still need me. I'm still valued. The one thing about the Fitbit, though, is that you've got to be just in the right position to have all of this stuff happening. I'm sorry, I've got 6 minutes. Okay, so this is in your handouts, correct? Everything you do, you can lay out on this continuum. How are you recruiting people? What is your call to adventure? Are you attracting mercenaries or are you attracting heroes? We talk about mindful therapy this and mindful therapy that, or mindful. How much mindfulness do we practice in our tasking? Put some thought to it. How can I attract heroes to us rather than mercenaries? How can I get better at finding and using these burning bushes? How can I create that lightning fast therapeutic alliance that is going to solidify the relationship with a struggling client that I'm going to be able to help walk them through this journey? Supernatural aid. Well, this event, remember, we're dispensing skills and tools right now. Use this stuff. Use it. Building therapeutic alliance, best practices, going to events like this, sharing best practices, crossing the first threshold, make sure that you mark those ritual milestones, identify those threshold guardians, beginning a new position. Remember, always keep your empathy dialed up. What was it like for you the first time you walked into X? Humble yourself. Keep putting yourself in that place. What did it feel like? Because then you can help a hero as they are struggling through that step as well. The trials, they have to succeed or fail on their own. Dragons and how to slay them. Some live out here, many live in here. Additional amulets. You can bring. If the magic screwdriver stopped working for Cheryl, it would be my job to bring her something else, and see if that will work. We see that happen all the time. There are times when the sword stops glowing blue when the orcs are around. Trust me, it's time to get a better sword. Clearly defined. How many times have you heard this? What do you need me to do? I need you to benchmark our processes. Okay, to do what? Identify core competencies and shared best practices that are results-driven and has a win-win strategic fit for the game plan. To do what? Leverage synergies. So we can deliver our mission 24/7. What do you need me to do? I need you to save Private Ryan. Boom! I'm on top of it. The more clarity that you can give the prize, the more likely the hero is going to attain it. It restores balance. Return, restoration, and renewal. This whole thing is about restoration and renewal. Successful outcome for client and self-care. You know, we got to make sure that we are in a good place. You know, we're dealing with a lot of very dark aspects of human nature, and we can't help but sometimes be touched by it, and perhaps even traumatized over time by it. And so we need to make sure. Yes, ma'am. I'm saying the more clarity that you can give the prize, the more likely you are going to attain it. Sometimes we have no idea what the prize is. However, I want you just think about this. Think about your proudest or most difficult achievement. Just encapsulate that, right? Your proudest or most difficult achievement. All right? What was the imbalance that was out of whack that made you go to achieve this thing? It doesn't just happen out of a cipher, right? It doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's a reason. So, what was your call to adventure? Typically, it's many calls. Remember, it's one phone call at the beginning of that scene. It's a whole cacophony of telephones ringing. When you're in need of treatment, my mom started. Well, you know what? Maybe you've got a problem. But by the time drunks look at you and say, you got a problem? It's time to go. It's time to go. The evidence mounts, right? Very rarely do we strike off the first time that we hear that whisper in the cornfield, build it and they will come. He didn't go right out with a tractor and mow everything down. It took some time. So what was your call to adventure to go on this journey? What was your supernatural aid? Who showed up to help you? Who were your mentors? Typically, it's more than one. I have what I call a personal board of directors, a group of people that I can go to and seek input, right? So who were the mentors that came forward to help you on this journey? And what were the skills and tools that they gave you? What was your crossing of the first threshold? What was the point of no return on that journey to achieve that difficult goal, that difficult task? What was that moment? Just like you were able to identify Cheryl's moment, you can identify your moment too. It's when, I'm in the balance. I'm either going to succeed or I'm going to fail now. What were your trials? Did you collect the prize? And out of that prize, what was your return? What was in it for you? What did you gain from it? And how did your family, how did your workplace, how did your community benefit from this? And the reason why I ask you to kind of think through this is, again, I just want to illustrate for you that this is not living in the realm of myth, legend, folktale, and religious parable. This is life. This is how it is set up. This is how we deal with it as human creatures. And this is why narrative is so important to us, because we thrive on this story being told over and over again. Campbell's title to his book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, that's what he's talking about. He's saying there's only one story, and that's it. The only thing that changes are the masks. The hero with 1,000 faces. This is what we are here for. This is how we can support each other and support ourselves along this journey. I hope I showed you the minivan. We've talked about dragons and how to slay them, and sometimes they're outside and sometimes they're in. We need your help, and only your help is going to cure this imbalance. And I just want to close by talking about this, because this is important to me right now. It's actually just a little over a year ago. I happened to be here at Lakeview when I got word that my brother was missing. Doing a presentation very similar to this, and I had to apologize to Katie because my mind was racing. I'd been told that he was missing, and I got a flight out of Jacksonville here. I flew home, and I went and I looked for him, and I couldn't find him. And I just started a new job at that point, and I had to come back. And I was back here about 3 days when the police called. They emailed a picture of a tattoo and asked us if we recognized it. My brother struggled with addiction, but he struggled quietly with it. He also had some co-occurring stuff that was undiagnosed. And he was talking to a friend on, texting with a friend on over the phone, and the very last thing that he texted was, "I'm going to go for a long walk now." That was it. And he did. He walked out into a forest preserve, and I believe that he was out there. He was out there when I was looking for him, but he was just a little bit further south than where I looked. And this is outside in Chicago and western suburbs where all these forest preserves are and everything. And they found his body. He had 2 fentanyl patches on his chest. So he was trying to knock down the pain, right? He was trying to knock down the pain and give himself some courage. And that is the thing. My brother was a coward. My brother, pain was alien to him. He would run screaming from anything that might cause him pain. And yet he found it within his realm to walk out into the middle of nowhere where he thought that he would never be found and cut his own throat. And I'm that is the most courageous act that he ever did that I'm aware of. And that's weird, right? I mean, and I don't like saying that, but it's the truth. So even somebody who has all of the resources that I had to marshal around this young man, I failed, right? I couldn't get him there. I couldn't get him there. We're not going to win every case. We're not going to win everyone. But it's most important that we try. It's most important that we look at these things and we adopt a warrior stance in fighting this disease because the stakes are too high. He was a good man. He was just terribly lost. And it can happen to anybody in this room, and it can happen to any one of your clients. So Gandhi said that everything that we do is unimportant, but it's most important that we do it. And I believe that. We're not going to make every case perfect. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. The place you fear the most is where it is. And this guy was something else. It was just, he had this epiphany, and to watch what flowed out of that epiphany was just really amazing. I read his work, and I always feel better. I always feel good. I want to thank you all. I want to thank you for taking the time to come and be here this afternoon and taking part in this. I want to thank Katie and Donna. She was the one that did all the logistical stuff and got it working. And everybody here at Lakeview for inviting me to bring this in. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your day and giving me 3 hours of your time to talk about something that means a lot to me, and I hope comes to mean something to you as well. So thank you very much.